The richest people today, they were all broke at one point. They were all at a point of like wanting to give up their company, and they didn't. I'm not going to stop until I get to 200 emails and then, or 100 emails. I don't remember what I did. Eventually you get a response. I did get some really unpleasant responses that can demoralize you at times. Some rude responses that I'm not going to be comfortable sharing here, but you got to keep going. The realization that if you want to set your mind on something, you're going to get there. And if it takes 1,000 emails or 10,000 emails, I will get there. There's someone out there that needs you. You just haven't found them yet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the FirstGen Lounge. Today's guest is Remi Taffin, entrepreneur and founder of Hundredfold Growth, where he helps small businesses scale fast using AI. Originally from France, Remi climbed the ranks in the tech industries to become director of engineering at Order Grove before taking a leap into entrepreneurship recently. He's here to share his insights on AI, growth, and what it really takes to build something of your own. Let's dive in. Welcome, Remi.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on. We're so glad to hear or to get to know a little bit more about your story. So first off, can you share a little bit about your upbringing in France? What was it like growing up there? And what eventually led you to the US? And what kind of first sparked your interest in computers and software engineering in the first place?
I'm French. I grew up in France in a sort of small village. I'm from a big family with 3 brothers, so 4 boys. It was a big family. I did my entire education in France, including college. The very early days, I always hated some repetitive tasks in general, so that's kind of where my passion for technology started showing. And in general, I kind of had a general knowing there was a better way. So that's why I was always interested in computer science in the first place. But yeah, I grew up in that small village and try to really grow from there. And from college, from high school, I went into a specific college, kind of like a first-gener myself as well, and also trying to figure out the path. I know I liked computer science. I didn't know where to start. I wasn't sure it was my path. I just liked coding, but like, could I make my job out of it? I wasn't really sure. So I got into it. It was sort of a 5-year experience in France. That's how it works, at least for the school that I was in. It was an engineering school. You start, and then for 5 years nonstop, you're in that same school, and you have some internships here and there in the process, which was also very, very interesting. I kept growing in college and figuring things out, and really started enjoying it. And with the internships, it really sort of validated that choice that this was for me. I really enjoy that field. And then at the same time, I sort of hated the work culture in France. It was very, I want to say there's like a lot of jealousy going for people that are working hard and getting a bit more than the average. So and I talked to a lot of people that left France and a lot of people in the US now, French people that kind of tell me that same story. I wanted to escape sort of that work culture or toxic culture, and that's kind of how I ended up in New York first. I sent over 1,000 emails, I think, for my internship. There wasn't the automation tools that there is now, so it was manually sending all those emails, trying to personalize them as much as possible, spending long nights in college, which, as you all know, we all have those long nights in college and a lot of time on our hands. So it was a lot of work, but as part of that last internship for my last year, after those 1,000 emails, I ended up with an offer in New York for an internship, and I always had that admiration for New York. I just got too excited. I kind of turned into, I had to take the job and turn into first internship, first full-time job, and green card, etc. So, I spent all my savings towards that visa and the flight, and found some sketchy back room in some random house. Imagine that person with like that luggage, that big luggage at the airport with kind of like all his life in it, and then going to find that place, kind of changing everything. My parents' face when I told them I was going to America, when all my brothers stayed really close from one another. I still remember that conversation very clearly. They were kind of like, it's temporary, right? Like you're coming back, right? Like how's that gonna work? But then yeah, I mean, I think they already pictured, marrying an American wife that doesn't speak French and all that already. They're like, oh wait, what is going on? But yeah, that's I started ended up staying here. I'm in Orlando now. But yeah, that's been the long version of that story, and yeah, I mean it's been very fun since.
No, yeah, that's a crazy story, but I love it. Yeah, I'm kind of at the stage where a lot of my friends are also moving to New York because I mean, when people graduate college and university, a lot of people say they either move to like LA or like New York. So I had two friends move to New York City last year. I mean, yeah, it's rough out there. They're also like living not the best conditions. They're like living like the Bronx or something. Like I went to go visit them. It was like a 20-minute walk to the subway. It's rough out there. But I mean, yes, I can only imagine.
And not speaking the language fully either. I mean, my English was okay, but you're kind of trying to figure things out. You have to somehow take a bus to go from New York to New Jersey, and kind of like, I don't know. This is my first time seeing those big buildings. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. But that's also part of the story that kind of like makes you also realize, if you set your mind to something, you can do it.
Yes. Now, was your vision of like New York and America, like what you thought in your head, live up to when you saw it in person, or?
I think New Yorkers will know this. It's just a dirtier version than what you imagine, I guess. But it is what I imagine it to be in terms of work culture. You watch a lot of TV shows that are based in New York, and people that work hard, play hard kind of culture. And I was excited. I was young. I wasn't looking for, being in the middle of a village doing nothing. I was looking for action, for meeting people. I was looking for some exciting, innovation, some exciting things to work on, meeting people that are interesting at work, and not people that are like on their 9 to 5 and at 4:59 they're already wrapping up, right? I was looking for more. And I think New York gave me exactly that. I had to move away because at some point, after some time, after you're like in your 30s, it's kind of like, well, I don't enjoy those things as much. I kind of enjoying laying down a bit more, staying at home and not going out as much. There are things I miss a lot about New York, and also things I miss a lot about France. But yeah, in general, I think I was so excited to go to New York. And it kind of, gave me most of what I was looking for in New York. Yeah.
I mean, now times have definitely changed. But any advice for any, like maybe students or people hoping to maybe get an internship or a job opportunity in America with hopes of potentially maybe like starting a career here? It's
rough because you're competing with people that are already local. It's really hard. Most people ignore you. That's something I've kind of I was able to reignite with work as well. Now that I'm reaching out to companies and marketing, etc. It's that same. You need that fire in your belly first, that is like I'm gonna, whatever the cost, I'm gonna make this happen. And I think that's that fire that you need first. And the realization that if you want to set your mind on something, you're gonna get there. And if it takes 1,000 emails or 10,000 emails, I will get there. And kind of setting your mind on that's the only option, because that's what I want and that's the outcome that I want. And just nonstop, just reaching out. I think I would just message people on LinkedIn, sending cold emails all the time. And I think even in the absolute worst case, you could have the absolute worst email written, by a 3-year-old with typos and whatever. I still believe if you send enough emails, one person is going to bite and just be like, tell me more. Like, I want to, you will find someone in the perfect opportunity at the perfect timing. You just got to keep going until you get there. And I mean, that's kind of what works in business, like it works in finding an internship. And I did the same thing because, as I said before, in my engineering school, it was a 5-year program, and every year was a different internship. So the first one was kind of like local, it was easy to find. The second one, I went to Madrid, so kind of like my first experience and sending a lot of emails to find something in Spain. I really wanted to go to Spain to learn Spanish. And then the third year, I went to Australia. So similar thing of like, I've set my mind, this is where I want to go, and I will not stop emailing. And I would like do homework and stuff until like 9 or 10 p.m. And then 10 would be like, okay, now is my time, 10 p.m. to midnight or 1 a.m. I'm not going to stop until I get to 200 emails, and then, or 100 emails. I don't remember what I did. And then you just go. And then eventually you get a response. I did get some really unpleasant responses that can demoralize you at times. Some rude responses that I'm not going to be comfortable sharing here, but that's just what it is, and I think it's just, you got to keep going. There's someone out there that needs you. You just haven't found them yet, and they haven't found you yet.
No, yeah. I mean, that's some great advice, even for not only if you're trying to get your next opportunity in like another country. Just honestly, today, like what you said really reminds me of a lot of the mindset I had to adapt when I was trying to find a job like out of college for the past like this whole year. I just signed my offer, I think like a couple weeks ago, but like, yeah, like every day I would have set aside like a couple hours, usually in the morning. I'll wake up and be like, okay, back on the grind. And like, I'll like be networking, whether that's like on the computer, like sending up like personalized LinkedIn messages, like finding random like weird connections that like from alone, like I need like this like the fifth connection or something, like something super small, and like whatnot.
You're friends with that guy I crossed paths with like 5 years ago.
No, yes,
for 2 minutes. I really said hi. That's all I know about him. But we're friends. Yes, let's talk. Yeah, I know that.
Exactly. Like, oh wait, like, do you know this person? Like, can you please introduce me? Like, I barely know who that is. But I was like, will you do it anyway? But like, that was like totally me. But I mean, yeah, like I was persistent, and like after months, like eventually, like it did pay off. But I think definitely it's interesting how like your engineering school had like, okay, you have to do like internship every year, and like, okay, students have to go find an internship. Whereas like I, at least from what my experience and talking to like students at different universities, I think the American universities maybe sell to the parents that like, if you like go to this school, like your student will have these opportunities and like what could have like these jobs, when that's not necessarily true. So I think students kind of like buying into that, like, oh, I kind of almost like deserve this job, but like, no, you really have to put everything in and have that fire to get that job, which I think I meet a lot of students that kind of are like confused by that. They don't realize how like hard and how much like effort you have to put in, which is like everything in life. But I mean, that's definitely like super interesting also.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happens for most people is the fear of rejection, the fear of being told no. And it's really hard to get started and get those first few no's. Then you sort of build that, you have that shield eventually that's kind of like, well, I don't care. This is just another, I just need to move on. I'm sending so many emails that like a no here and there is not gonna, it's the same as not responding for what I care. And eventually I'll get a yes or I'll get a maybe, and that's my way in. And I think it's the same for finding a job. It's the same. I think French schools are structured a bit differently because the hours are very different. Like I would start my school day at 8 and finish at 6 p.m. So every day was like 8 to 6 almost, except for Thursdays, I think, if I remember correctly. And that's kind of it. You just like go a lot, but there was more classes, more practical classes where you actually like do like some experiments or like coding, like you actually like sort of do your homework in a 4-hour class. You have like you're supposed to build this software in 4 hours or in 8 hours, and you just do it in chunks. So you have, I guess, a bit less homework, but just more hours. So also finding a job there is just much harder. It's different. So I guess the internship was sort of my way of getting something there. Also, I mean, because it's in France, the education system is not the same price as in the US. So I didn't really have to. I was still mentoring some kids in math or some stuff like that to pay for groceries. But it wasn't. It's nothing like US in terms of cost of education.
Moving on, so you worked in various like tech companies, and then eventually, before you started your startup, you grew into the role of director of engineering. Was that kind of your dream for most of your careers, like kind of working your way up? How did it feel like once you had that role and whatnot?
It started as you start as an individual contributor. You're excited to do things and build things that you can release, be part of a team. So you get excited about that at first. Also, you learn a lot in college, but this is just not what you do at work. And I think that's kind of the same thing in all fields, but even more so in software engineering. In school, you work on outdated technology. You don't really have processes. It's kind of like you're not building things to last at school. You're just doing this quick project. Versus in a company, when I'm building a software, I'm not doing this it's not a fun project for the next week. This is something that hopefully will make money and that's going to keep running for years. So the quality expectation is also very different, and the processes for that. Like other people look at the code that you're pushing, and you will want the best version of yourself. A lot of automation to make sure you don't break things. So it's very different than what you learn at school. So I sort of started with that. And then what I started enjoying is I became a full-time person, and there were some interns that were also joining, and I started enjoying the part of mentoring, helping others. But as you start as an individual contributor, it's really hard to get started as a manager, because first you need someone ready to give you a chance at managing people, which can be hard. It's a new skill that managers or your current manager might not really see right now. And it's really hard to show them, like, I can do this in a different language, in a different work culture, right? So you kind of have to prove that you can do this. And it usually starts with like managing an intern or just mentoring someone. And you have to be very explicit to your manager about everything that you're doing and how that person is growing, and seeing the outcome, really making it so that the person you're managing or mentoring is really the best version of themselves. And over time, they really become a really top performer in the company. But then also you need the right conditions to be able to become a manager. You need to have a team that's not just you or even more than one person. You just need a real team that makes sense. When I started in my company, I was the only person in the infrastructure team. So it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to become a manager until there's someone else to manage, obviously. But for a lot of startups, which is most likely that you'll find an internship there, well, this is kind of not the time. So it could mean you have to change companies or something similar. And then also, especially in software engineering, the issue with becoming a manager is you need to have engineers that will see the value in you stepping in as a manager, right? I started managing, I was 27, and I was managing 2 people that were 40-year-olds. So it's kind of weird at first, but it's got to be in the right culture where first those people don't want to be manager, they don't want to be in meetings, they want to be doers. And you let them do what they want to do and what they're good at, which is building things. And then you take on the planning part, talking to other stakeholders, clarifying requirements for them, doing the things that I actually enjoy doing that the doers don't enjoy doing. And that's kind of how they started realizing, wait, like this feels like the complement to my skills that I need, so I don't have to be in meetings every single day back to back, right? Which is just kind of like also part of being a manager, is you have to do more of that. And that's kind of like the doer versus manager type of separation. And you keep helping making those people give the best version of themselves, give them a lot of feedback. You get better at reading people, at knowing people. You get to know the people also, personally. So it also helps for them to grow and know what they enjoy doing, what they don't like doing, and you structure things in that way as well. And so that was interesting. And from there, I kind of got promoted to director. I was managing 4 teams before I left and created my own company. But yeah, it's really hard at first, but it's kind of the same mindset of gotta keep pushing. And if this is what you want, I can't say this is what I wanted on day one of starting in my internship in New York. It's not like I was looking at the CTO and be like, I want your job. But I really wanted to have the impact within the company. And I really enjoyed helping the people grow. And that's what really made sense for me to go the manager path. Unfortunately, there's a lot of companies where the culture is very much like, in order for you to grow, you have to become a manager, whether you like managing or not. And that's probably the biggest mistake across the board, where manager is your only way up, the only way to make more money, the only way to have more responsibility, and the only way to be heard from a leadership standpoint. And that's one thing that in software engineering, some companies do well, specifically like the big tech companies. But in other areas, it might not be as straightforward, but you can continue to grow in engineering where you can be an individual contributor and still keep growing, like VP level, like principal engineer, but you don't have any of the management responsibilities. You just have more of the leadership responsibilities. I would work with those people every single day. They're one of the brightest doers that I've worked with, but at the same time, you need the people also on the other side that are actually managing, the managing managers, etc. And there's a management and leadership aspect to those two different branches. And yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the management path, so I stayed on that path. And now as a founder, nowadays, that's sort of the same principle where I do enjoy working with people. I don't have any hires right now. I'm a solopreneur, but I'm sure eventually I will have people to manage, and I really do enjoy that part a lot. I hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. If you are, make sure to like and subscribe. All right, I'll see you back in there.
Got it. No, yeah. I mean, definitely thanks for sharing and kind of explaining the two pathways in engineering as well. As something I didn't know until I had my first internship last summer, that I just didn't really understand the structure. And that being two pathways, in my head, I also thought you had to be a manager to work your way up, when there's also that pathway to levels of what type of engineer you are. So thanks for explaining that for any listeners who are in engineering and thinking of going down that path as well. And also kind of just engineers can make great executives as well. You don't have to be some sort of, for director of engineering, of course, but you don't have to be some sort of a business person or business background to work your way up and be some sort of executive in a company as well. You kind of mentioned it, but when starting your own company, but can you walk us through when you first felt the urge that, okay, you kind of wanted to lead the director of engineering role? And when was the moment that you kind of had your vision for your company? I want to do something with AI, and realize that how much AI can reshape the world around us.
Yeah, absolutely. It started because my days were getting longer and longer, I want to say. And not because of I would still work the same hours, but when I would stop working, my brain would still keep going because there's always 100 projects going on. Especially, as I said before, I was managing 4 teams. So that means you have to drive the vision for each team, knowing what they're going to be working on for the next quarter, for the next year, but also what are they blocked on right now, and how can I help them? How can I help each other give the best version of themselves? Plus this other interruption that came in, plus this other project, plus the CEO asking, it just keeps growing, where even at 4 a.m. you wake up and you're like, shoot, I forgot to do this. And, you start writing notes, and I honestly don't mind doing that if it's from building my own dream or from my own purpose or my own vision. But if it's to, help another company get there, then it can take a toll on your mental health. And I just started realizing more and more that even when I was spending time with my daughter, I would be on my phone checking Slack or checking emails or responding. And even when I was not working and I could have been spending time and enjoying time with my family, it kind of became, no, I'm still doing work, even because it's just so available, especially in the remote world where, well, I'm just 2 steps away from my office. So even if I'm playing with my daughter, I can come back to my desk if someone really needs me. I don't have the excuse of like, I'm not at work right now. It can be hard to set that limit of work. And people are in different time zones. My boss was in Israel. Some of the people were, some of my direct reports were in Russia, one in Argentina. So there's always something happening at different hours. And the bigger the company, the more you feel like you have to be there for them, especially as a manager that cares. And I think the big click for me that I needed to leave was when my mom had health issues last year. She's all okay now, but it was very scary at the time. And it really made me rethink my career. What I wanted above all was the freedom of time. Say in the moment where you have health issues with your family, I would have wanted that opportunity to say, well, I don't want to work for the next month or month and a half, or having that freedom of where I invest my time that I really couldn't really get in a 9-to-5 job. I also want that ability to say, I'm going to work like crazy for the next 2 months and make a lot of money. And then for the 2 months after, I'm just taking a vacation and relaxing, or someone's coming and family's coming to see me in Florida and I want to enjoy some time off. And I don't have to depend on, oh, is it okay if I take some time off? It's flexible PTO or unlimited PTO. It's always, you have to request and make sure it's okay and feel bad because I didn't deliver this, or something is not going to move as fast. So yeah, I think it really made me rethink my entire career trajectory. And the reason that I ended up as a director is also because first, when you get into the US, you have the visa requirements. It's not easy to start a new business when you don't have any visa. So I had that intern visa and work visa and green card. And you're kind of forced into, well, I need to have that 9-to-5 to justify for immigration and whatever. But then I got my American citizenship last year, and that also made me rethink, wait, now I don't have to do that anymore. Maybe now it's time to start thinking about my dream life. Maybe that's what I want to be doing. And I started thinking, well, what is my dream life? What would I do in my ideal scenario if money was not an issue, let's say, and where's my passion? Where do I want to do? I didn't really see myself being a CTO as I thought about that. I didn't think of like being a CTO working crazy hours every week with no freedom of time. And at the same time, AI was growing like crazy. It still is. And you see companies that are laying off more often, not so much in software engineering, but in other places. I see CrowdStrike this morning actually was laying off 5% of their force. And more companies are doing that. Even Shopify recently, they put a policy in place that if you want to hire someone new, you have to prove to the recruiting team that it cannot be done by AI or an AI agent, which is a big AI first hiring. I think this is going to be the new normal very soon. But there's just so much innovation and automation going on that can really take on all of the boring tasks of every person's job. So it made sense to get into AI. I always had that passion for innovation. The market is going there. People are willing to put a lot of money into this because the ROI, the return on investment for businesses is crazy. You can double their revenue with just an AI agent. You can reduce cost or scale operations, and it's crazy how much it can take on and how good of a job it can do. I wasn't so much of a believer, I want to say a year ago, but then when I started really thinking and seeing what it can do, that really changed the game for me. And so that's when, little by little, throughout the end of last year, I started thinking, okay, I need to create my business. I need to have a game plan. I need to leave. I started watching a lot more YouTube videos, which is also what prompted me to create my own YouTube channel. But really getting into a place of, I want to have that plan And then early January is when I started executing it. So I gave my well, it was not 2 weeks, but it was last month in January. I finished end of January, and then February I started my own company. So this year, 2025.
Well, congratulations on, making
Thank
that
you.
career transition. And thanks for, being honest about like being an executive and being the sort of like leadership roles. I think in media, like a lot of times it's like almost like romanticized in a way, just kind of like how we're talking about like New York also, that like, oh, you have all this power, you make all this money. But from what I've like heard and talked to other executives, like work just never really gets turned off. Like okay, so you have this position. Okay, now you're always that executive. You always have that position of power. And it's all kind of dependent on you for this company to run. And there's like a lot at stake. So thanks for just kind of like being honest and clearing up your experience with that and whatnot. And also like, definitely I applaud you. It's super inspirational to kind of like, you recognize like, oh, like I want more freedom. Like my job, is taking that freedom away from me. And that's something I want in my dream life, and also putting in the action to do that as well. I know a lot of people sometimes like settle or like just don't actually kind of like pull the trigger to make that change. But that's really great that, you recognize that and you did something about that. I think that's also kind of you asking yourself that question, like, what is your dream life? Is definitely like a great way of thinking as well. It's like that long-term thinking where I work in an advising office for students. So like they come to me, I help them with their schedules, help them plan their life, choose their major. And like, that's definitely, I see a lot, especially in young people. It's harder though, because you haven't had those opportunities. You're kind of just like guessing on like a vision, but you haven't had the opportunity to actually put that to effect and test if that's what you like. But that's kind of what I always talk about them. Okay, what are your long-term goals? Like, where do you actually think you could see yourself? And like, will this major or what you're doing outside of class actually help you get you there? So I think that's definitely it's just a great mindset to have. And even when you do go into industry or that next career shift, you should always you should never like lose sight of that. Because like, what is this all for if it's not building what you want long-term?
And it's also hard because it changes over the years. When you're young, you have this idea that from TV, from what from people you've talked to, and then you actually get to know yourself. You get to know what you like, what you don't like, and then you realize like some people are like, actually, I thought I'd be like a CMO, but I really don't enjoy managing people. I actually love building things. I love having the impact. And then you just kind of turn your career around. That's fine. It's actually the same in business. It's keeping a pulse on your big vision and who you are and where you want to go. That's a really important question to ask yourself often. And I sort of realized I hadn't asked myself that, because you're kind of in the wheels of corporate and your goal is the next promotion. And then, it's kind of like the carrot in front of you and you keep working on the next project and whatever. And then you get to the next promotion and then another one is put in front of you, right? So you don't actually take the time to take a step back. And also there's the fear of quitting the job. It's stable. It's, it put me through COVID, and, I was there for 6 years. So it was I knew everyone. I met everyone many times, personal relationships. I still talk to a lot of people in the company today. It's really hard to make that decision and kind of like give up everything, knowing that you're starting that new business that, am I going to make any money in the first 6 months, a year, 2 years? I don't know. No one knows. And only the future will know. So it's just hard to make that big shift. And I think it's important to, I want to say to be happy is to really think about what you want. Don't really get too impacted by what your manager wants you to be, but more about what is my dream life like. Some people might say like, I want to be rich on the beach, but really think, if that was every single day of every single year, would that be okay? I mean, I know I would be bored. I just couldn't do that. I would need, a broader impact. It sounds nice for a week or two. That's called vacation, but that's not my dream life. And I really want to think that way of, I want to be I want to be challenged. I want to be driving something that I care about. And I think that's the part where you have to identify what is that part that you care about. For me, it was helping people, which is business owners that really want to use AI. They don't know where to start. For everyone, it is different, but it's an important quest and reflection. Go for a walk, think about it, journal. I don't know, whatever gets you to really think about it. Forget about what you're doing and how your job defines you. Forget about all of this, and I think I said that last time we talked. I was watching like one of those shows on Netflix that was kind of like, what is your rich life? If you had an unlimited amount of money, if money was never a problem, what would you want that life to be? And that's exactly like what prompted me to think that. So that's what I would recommend everyone to do. And don't do it just once and then check back in 15 years. Do it often and really think how you want that life, because then that's also how you drive that fire in your belly that I was mentioning before. If that's your dream outcome, then just go get it.
No, yeah, definitely. That's some really great advice for sure. I think you would definitely bring up like many good points, and just not losing that almost like separation of like individual thinking of what you should do for yourself when you're working for a company, which I think a lot of people definitely like over time, and understandably so, kind of lose that way of thinking about like, okay, this is the best for myself and this is actually what I want to do. I think I read like a study, I forgot who did it, but it was something about how like people are becoming like uncomfortable from like phones just sitting and thinking. Like if you put like someone like in like a room that like no media, no TV for like 10 minutes, like they like won't go crazy, but like they're super uncomfortable, and like people don't do that naturally. So I think honestly, just like setting aside like you said, 10 minutes a day to reflect, like log off and like think about your life and what you want could actually be really like just a complete game changer for so many people. Because I think a big issue is kind of like what you're talking about, like, oh, you're on like this corporate like hamster ball wheel. It's like it's so fast paced, you have so many responsibilities that you don't even have time to reflect and realize that you're maybe not unhappy, or this suddenly isn't your dream life that like as a young child like you pictured yourself doing, which is definitely honestly a fear of mine going into like the professional world. But I try to remember this and like take that advice to heart for sure.
One more thing I can recommend is next time you're on a really cheap airline that has no iPad, no internet, yes, long flights, let's say New York to LA or whatever, and then really start thinking that this is the perfect time. Those are the most productive times that I've had, at least in terms of self-reflection, because you have nothing else to do. And well, don't really want to talk to my neighbor on the plane for 6 hours, but it's really like forcing you with no internet and no chat GPT to help you really start thinking about what you care about and how to get there. And those are the most insightful places. You're just with yourself, no distraction. You could do it at home too. Just shut off the Wi-Fi, shut off your phone, and put a timer for 30 minutes even. You're gonna start seeing results. It's quite impressive what you can do. It's just so many distractions these days, but it's quite impressive what you can do with just silence and no distraction.
Got it. No, yeah. It's definitely a good point. I never thought about the plane as well. I'm sure I'll be flying cheaper airlines, graduating college. So I'm sure I'll have the opportunity.
Don't blame me later if the experience was bad, because you should expect
Okay.
It was bad.
Okay, got it. So yeah, thank you. Moving on, what's kind of like the biggest mindset you should, moving from, working in the corporate world and industry to becoming a founder?
What was really insightful for me was to realize I was capped by the company's ceiling before, versus now in my own company as a founder, I am capped entirely by my own ceiling. And that means for opportunity, for revenue. If I want to grow the business, well, I can give everything I can and I will see the return. Or if there are months, let's say, when I have another child, or if I have another child and I want to take some time off for a few months and just kind of lay low and check in and with my recurring customers, make sure everything is okay, maybe delegate more to someone I trust. Then I can do that, right? I think that's really the important piece is you work. I worked so hard as a director. I was about to be promoted towards a VP path, and you just work so hard, long weekends. Sometimes it would even be like maintenance in the middle of the night and things like that, or something breaks at 3 a.m. on a Saturday and you're on call. And then at the end, congrats, you got that 5% raise, 10% raise. And, that was 2 years in the making to get there. Versus, with my own AI automation agency, I can, I was working until almost 2 a.m. Earlier this week because I really wanted to get one thing working and one thing going all the way and for helping a customer. And, that was on me to just do that. And then, the opportunities will be coming. That person can be used as a referral and he's already like referring me to someone else. I'm having lunch with him tomorrow. It's really just having that. It's just, it can be a bit uncomfortable, especially as a software engineer. You're never directly talking to business people, but I think that was the big one for me. I think also another big mindset shift was having constantly that clear vision in mind, because it's not like you're part of like the day-to-day work and you show up, someone tells you what to do, you do it. There was an aspect of you need to remember why you started and stick to it. And a lot of the entrepreneurs that actually get successful are people that are persevering and pushing through the obstacles and try to get into creative thinking to solve their problems. Even if you think of, really the richest people today, they were all broke at one point. They were all at a point of like wanting to give up their company and they didn't. And then they kept going and they kept going. And I think that's the secret there. Hiring the right people too. Just pushing through, versus, if it felt as in a 9 to 5, it is more, you just navigate whatever's going on. And I would find myself super excited on Monday. I would be excited for the weekend and for the next thing, and one thing led to another. And you just every Monday you're just like, well, I'm excited for the weekend. The weekend goes by so fast, and then you're starting again, and then it goes a year. And what have you done on the what are you proud of? What can you talk about? I kept working. I don't have much to talk about in a social context because no one knows what I'm doing. It's so technical, and I don't have much to talk about. I kind of like losing that flame a little bit, losing that fire, and shifting back to being a founder kind of reignited that.
Yeah, I'm great. That kind of reignited your fire. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. I think, especially in engineering, some things like you literally can't talk about your work at some companies. Like when I start working, like I can't talk about my work. So I spend so much time at work, or I will be. And I literally can't even tell like my friends or my family about it, which is definitely a good point you bring up. And I think also like definitely that's a huge lesson is like remembering your purpose. And I know for our FirstGen listeners out there, being a FirstGen, naturally, you kind of have all that strengths to be a great entrepreneur. Like you have no roadmap. You literally had no roadmap for your life. Now you can just harness those skills and you can translate them over to, building something of your own, because you kind of have that resilience, that perseverance, and that kind of have that creative way of thinking, because your pathway wasn't the most common or linear path. You kind of had to literally kind of construct your own path also. So I think that's definitely a really great lesson that you brought up. What's kind of moving forward? What's something you had to learn the hard way that you hope or you want to tell that you want every founder to hear? And what excites you most about kind of the future AI in your business, in terms of small businesses?
Yeah, I think first is one thing I quickly realized, because imagine you're an entrepreneur. You're giving up a good job that pays well, and you're just kind of starting over in that aspect. And very quickly, if maybe not for the first week because you're so excited about what's new, but very quickly you're going to be sending 500 emails and you're not going to get a single response, or the only responses are going to be like, stop emailing me, which I've gotten this also. That's when you're going to start rethinking, and you're going to have that little voice inside of you that's going to tell you, hey, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, you're taking that big risk. It's not going to work. You have that sort of evil voice that's telling you everything and questioning everything that you believe in. And my advice for anyone out there is, don't listen to that voice, or acknowledge that it is the voice and that it's not where you want to be. Because 1 week you could have a terrible week. I've had some of those. You just keep talking to people, no one's interested. And then the next week, somehow, in a single day, you could have like 2 clients on the same day. And it's those customers that you should listen to, not the ones that are not even listening to you and telling you to stop emailing them. It's really about the customers and how to help them, and think about the impact you're having. Even if you just have a few customers, but you're changing their life, you're changing the trajectory, which is some of the people I work with. It's like someone that was working with a web agency in India that is really not in a good place with them. They've been billing him for a long time. They're actually they haven't delivered much, and he's like in a bad place where he had this big idea to build his software. It's not there. He doesn't know how to do any differently, and he just needs help. And that's what I've been helping him with. And it's already in a much better place in less than a month. So those are the things that make you feel better about the long days, the long weeks. And then we kind of talked about that before, but also take a step back often. Stop thinking about the day-to-day and think about your life. Think about your dream outcome, right? I want to help a lot of people, and that's what I care about. And if you get a bunch of no's along the way, well, so be it.
Yeah, definitely. That's some really great advice that kind of also connected back to kind of what we're talking about earlier, with overcoming like that fear and rejection. It kind of reminds me, I read like a book a few months ago. It's called Can't Hurt Me. And it's by a Navy SEAL. I forgot his name right now. But anyway, a huge part of that book is like what he calls like callousing your mind, which I think can kind of translate exactly to what we're talking about. Like, you just have to, after time kind of getting maybe rejections or quote unquote failing, over time, like that kind of that calluses your mind, whereas like the next one doesn't hurt you as much. And you just have to keep going and remembering that like long-term vision. So I think that's definitely some really great advice for sure. Well, Remi, thank you so much for coming to the lounge, and it was so great getting to know you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye, listeners.
If it reignited a fire in your belly, make sure to like so I know to post more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.